for full-time planning, and that kind of goes into like planner coordinator, which I can talk about afterwards as well. But so for full-time planning, it's basically you need somebody to help you the whole way through, right? So that's like, oh my gosh, I have no idea where to start. I need help. Like, I don't even know what venues to look at. I don't know how to set a budget. I have no idea. I just need somebody to come in and just like guide me through the whole process, right? So that's basically full planning. Is I will be there to help you. I have resources. I can connect you with vendors. I can give you ideas. I can help you kind of shape your vision board into the way that maybe you see it in your head, but don't really know how to put it down on paper or on like a Pinterest board or things like that. So that's, full-time is basically doing all of that with them, attending meetings with them, attending vendor meetings, helping them design concepts. And then of course that includes just like execution of their wedding day. So partial planning, and that's usually about like 12 to 18 months out, I'd say. Partial planning, that's about halfway through. So some couples are like, oh, I think, we're okay with sourcing our venue. I think we know kind of exactly what DJ we want, what photographer we want. So they don't really want the help up front. But after all the big ticket items are secured, they're like, okay, now what, right? So now it's all like maybe the smaller details. Where should I get favors? Do you know a certain musician? Things like that, where they need a little bit more help in staying organized and maybe having a checklist to keep them on track. And when do I order invitations? When do I send them out? Do I send save the dates? Like, stuff like that. So that's like partial planning. It's being that consultant for them through kind of the rest of their planning process. And then again, going into the execution of the day. And then like month of, which people used to call day of coordination, which isn't really like a thing, right? Because we can't come in the day and be like, all right, hand it over, like, let me run the day for you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like not really a thing anymore. So it's now turned into like month of coordination, or we like to call it wedding management, because really we're managing that day for you. So about a month before, some planners even do 2 months before, we connect with, all of like vendors like you guys, we connect and just making sure that everything's in line based on all the planning that they have already done. So our job is really just to make sure that their day goes smoothly and that they don't stress out on the day of, right? So they have a lead person that will work with all of the vendors. So that's basically like the 3 different tiers, I guess you can call it, for wedding planning packages that most planners offer.
And then I guess the difference between the wedding planner and the coordinator is like what you mentioned, like the coordinator is more like of the month of, or the 2 months of.
I guess so planner is like you're fully invested in the whole planning process, right? So you're in it with them from the get-go. You're basically, I like to always tell them, like, I'm going to be your best friend, because we're going to spend so much time together that we're going to be planning all these things. Whereas like a coordinator, it's really getting together all the logistics that have already been solidified. So just making sure they're organized and the logistics are there, and just what it sounds like, right? As just coordinating their day and coordinating with all of the key players that are involved for the wedding day. So I think that's like the biggest difference. So if you hear people say planner and or coordinator, there really is a difference. They aren't the same thing.
Okay, that sounds good. And out of curiosity, because the timeline tends to be kind of a very crucial part of the wedding planning process. Is that something that's included in like the coordinating part, like the month of? And because I can assume that it's part of the partial and the full wedding planning scheme, but is it part of like the month or is it something that couples do on their own and just consult?
It's I would say it's more a part of the coordination process than the actual planning process in general, because you can't really put your timeline together until a lot of the details are already confirmed with each vendor. Knowing their setup time, what time they're arriving, what they need on the venue site, things like that. And sometimes the couples will have like their own general timeline, and then they realize, like, as I start to tell them, I start to look at it, and tweak it, they realize like, oh, I didn't know we had to have time, to do those things, like to put my dress on and, or put my jacket on, or there's little things that they don't see. And our timelines, as you guys know, our timelines are like 5 minutes, they're minute by minute, not necessarily meaning that it's going to stay that way, but it's really to kind of show the couple that there are so many details that are involved. And sometimes they want like all these things packed into their wedding day, right? Like they want the performance, and then they have bouquet toss and cake cutting, all these things. And then you realize, okay, now we only have 30 minutes for dancing. So it's like, they don't realize that there's a lot that really goes into a whole day. It's not just, okay, we're going to say our vows and then, we're going to have a party and everyone's going to party. It is like that, but there are some formalities as well. But that kind of, it's funny because kind of talking about that, like with formalities, I notice a lot more couples, especially like this year, are not doing a lot of those traditional things. Like they're cutting them out. And I don't know if it's because of COVID and maybe a lot of them are married already and this is like their second wedding. So they're like, oh, we don't need to do that. Like, it's fine. We just want to party and celebrate with everybody.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think, yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting take.